Hello everybody, how you doing? It's Eric here, and today we're going to talk about Digimon. Now it's probably been a good 20 years since I said the word Digimon without it being followed up by I remember that. But today we're talking about it. Digimon, the digital monsters. Apparently they were planning to be the champions. Well, tell that to Pokemon. Ooh, I said the P word, we're not allowed to say that, are we? Now, despite my rigid lack of knowledge with the Digimon series, I discovered, upon researching it, that there's 4 new games on the way soon. So I want to talk about those 4 games and what exactly they mean for the series and what you can kind of expect. I'm going to do my best to sum up the details, but just try to remember that the last time that I was really into Digimon was when Cheese TV was still a thing. If you don't know what Cheese TV was, just know that Australians, we had a interesting childhood. To understand what Digimon games are coming up, we have to understand the different types of Digimon games. So you see, there are the story games, there are the world games, and then there's kind of the spin-off games. So the story games are the ones you've probably seen recently, Cyber Sleuth, things like that, that are your typical JRPG, get in with the Js, get in with the RPGs, really deep and heavy story, and turn-based combat. On the other hand, world is more your action-oriented, open-ish world experience, I guess. And then last of all, you have your spin-offs, or your other games, like your MMOs and your fighting games, and apparently there was a kart racing game, I don't know. Digimon. So what games are actually coming to the Switch soon? Well, first of all, we have Digimon Stories Cyber Sleuth and Digimon Stories Cyber Sleuth Hacker's Memory. And if you know anyone with a lisp, please don't ask them to say this again, because as you can tell by the names, Hacker's Memory was just the sequel to Cyber Sleuth, the original. It had the same world, it had the same timeline, you're just playing it from a different perspective. It also had an expanded roster and more zones to explore, so by all means, it still did feel like a sequel, from what I hear. Now these 2 games are making their way over to the Switch on October 18th, and PC mind you, on October 18th this year, 2019, in case you don't know the year. I hope you know the year. And if you're asking yourself, which one should I buy? Then the answer is, well, both, because they come in a pack. Both games are now included together. You can't purchase them separately. Oh, and they also have all the DLC that it was included and came after as well. So you're getting the technically complete edition of 2 games here. Pretty good. Now we get to move on to the game that is a spicy meatball that tempted my taste buds, and that is Digimon Survive. If you don't know what this game is, it's probably not surprising. There hasn't been a huge amount of footage and publicity going for this yet, simply because, well, it's not ready. It got delayed recently. You see, it got pushed into next year when it was supposed to be releasing later this year. And as we discussed before, this year is 2019. We're on board? Cool. If you remember, I mentioned at the start that the main series, the 2 that they kind of consider their main line, are the story and the world series. Now this Digimon Survive is apparently planned to, if it does well enough I guess, take off as part of their 3rd mainline main series entry. Which means going forward, you would have your story, you would have your world, and you would have your... Well, it sounds like I'm describing the game here. and you'd have your Digimon Survive. Now the reason this game's spices sent my taste buds tingling is because, well, I'm a big fan of tactics game, and that's what this game is. It's a tactics game. Pokemon Conquest fans out there, you hear me. Oh, I said the P word again. As a big fan of Final Fantasy Tactics and games like that, as well as RPGs, this is certainly something that's right up my alleyway. As I said, there's only a small amount of footage out there at the moment, but for what we've seen, the art direction and the game itself does look quite beautiful, and I'm really looking forward to just maybe dipping my toes into this one. See how it goes. Now the last game, or the 4th game that I want to mention here, is Digimon... We don't know the name yet, but we know that it falls into the story series. In other words, the series that are the Hacker's Memory and Cyber Sleuth games at the moment. However, we know that it's not actually going to be one of those games. In other words, it's not going to be another continuation of the Cyber Sleuth series. Why are they doing this to me today? And by the sounds of it, they almost want this to be like a co-product alongside Survive. In other words, the stories and stuff would play into each other. I don't know how much of that is true yet, I don't know how much it's going to, but that's what it sounds like. They have mentioned before that the game is taking longer than expected, which would kind of make sense. I mean, we're talking that the last game, Survive, got pushed into 2019. I mean, maybe that's taking longer than expected as well, but it could also be that they want these games to release more at a similar time, and simply, if that one gets pushed out into late next year, then there would be too big a gap between the 2. Although, I guess the other games had a big gap between them. I think it was like 2015 to like 2018, so like a 3-year gap with Cyber Sleuth. I promised myself I wasn't going to say Cyber Sleuth again. The very last thing here that I think we need to note is, well, I'm talking about all Switch games so far today, and this isn't really confirmed to be Switch yet. I say yet because I do believe that it will be. the way that Switch games have been selling, and I'm almost guaranteed that Cyber Sleuth is at least going to do okay on the Switch, maybe they won't just do this as a PS4 game. Maybe this will have the same treatment, maybe even day and date with the Switch. Maybe. You get the point. And maybe that's going to do it for today. But I want to thank you for tuning in today's video. If you enjoyed what happened here, I do look forward to games like this all the time, so make sure to hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with all the latest stuff that's happening. And remember, for great Nintendo entertainment, you can count on me. So you see, there are the story games, there are the... And if you're asking yourself, Eric, what should...